that we saw mid last year. Of course, the government launching the sexuality education framework, and we thought that this is going to take off. But it seems like there's a push and pull, and we don't understand what's the status of this particular rollout. So that's the conversation that we'll be having here on Kickstarter. Remember, your views are totally appreciated. You can be part of this conversation. The hashtag is morning@NTV across all the social media platforms. And just in case you're stepping out, you can actually stream us live NTV Uganda. That's on Facebook and YouTube pages. Now let's keep this rolling. We are joined by Mr. Ismail Mulindwa. He is the acting Director of Basic Secondary Education. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Next to him is Mr. Alain Sibenala. He is the Country Director of UNFPA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Next to him is Reverend Aaron Bate from the Church of Uganda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's have this conversation, and I think on this one I will start with Mr. Mulindwa. We saw this framework being launched mid last year, around May thereabout, and we thought that finally we have a solution to what the young people have been crying out for. Right. Just let us in on this particular status, this rope pulling that we're seeing.
Okay, I wouldn't call it rope pulling, but maybe some misunderstandings of the framework which we need to clear. But I want to take you back to the time when we started on this framework. It looks like it's a ministry thing, yes, but if you remember in 2016, the Parliament of Uganda directed that we should have some kind of a guiding framework on sexuality education. This came as a result of materials going into our schools, unacceptable materials, people going into our schools and passing on information which was not age appropriate. So Parliament saw it fit and said, no, please come up with a policy framework which will guide. And immediately we kick-started and started on the process of developing one. And in this development, there are quite a lot that happened, which I may not be able to share here. But one fact is that we try to consult as much as possible, and we consulted all the stakeholders.
Right.
Talk of young people, talk of religious people, talk of civil society organization, talk of even the media. We did really consult. And it's on record because...
I remember we even hosted you.
Exactly. Right. I even came here. Went to Interreligious Council, went to UJCC, went to the Muslim Council, went to even the government partners. We had quite a number of meetings. Even parents through the family network. Maybe one thing we didn't do to the expectation of other stakeholders, some stakeholders like faith-based organizations, that we consulted the faith-based organizations in their organizations. You know they have forum,
right?
Which could be reached very easily, because we could not go for an individual, maybe bishop or sheikh. So we saw it fit and very convenient to consult these religious leaders through their organizations like Interreligious Council, like Joint Christian Council, and we thought I had done it. So we did even a benchmark for information. You may not even know this. We went to Zambia, went to Nigeria. In all this, we are trying to really have a product which would be homegrown. And I want to say this product is homegrown, the Ugandan version, because when you look at other frameworks across the world, will be quite different from ours. Ours is based on values, religious values, cultural values, national values.
So no stone was left unturned?
Yes.
No stone was left unturned?
No stone was left unturned.
So from
however, however, like any other new thing, this sexuality education being a contentious issue, some voices came up. I said, no, maybe this one was not well fixed. Because there's nobody who is rubbishing the framework. The people, what our colleagues are saying, that no, let's look at this maybe and fix it better. That's the point.
Right.
But it should not look like people are saying the framework is useless.
Okay.
No, and one other correction I want to make. We talk of sexuality education framework, but I'm disappointed, I should say this. We are moving back and forth, just on non-issues, because you get our colleagues, our seniors from the religious group saying, no, we can't allow sex education in our schools. But the thing is not sex education.
It's sexuality.
There is a difference between sex education and sexuality education.
Okay, and of course we'll come to that. Mr. Elaine, UNFPA has been at the forefront of this, especially engaging with the youth on a day-to-day basis and understanding the need of this sexuality education. Just let us in on your view with regards to the current status of this particular program not taking off, so to speak.
Well, we have not been at the forefront of this. The ministry and the country has been at the forefront of elaborating this framework. You know, we have been keeping a very, very low-profile role here because it is a national homegrown product, and I think that needs to be recognized and admired and respected. And I want to say here that the fact that these discussions take place is very normal. You know, I believe that Uganda has, through this, managed to show a perfect intersection between rights, culture, and values. And I think that's what this product is. You know, we also understand that the delays are just very natural to occur, and we do not express any regret or any sign of concern that this is at the stage where it's currently in. I repeat, we consider it normal because it is sensitive, and it is I think very much reflecting the nature of debates and the need for debates that need to take place. And
but what are the young people telling you, especially now that you interact with them quite often?
Well, young people, you see, here's the thing. There is very specific mention about what would be the best method, the most desirable method to avoid pregnancy in teenage years, right? Now, that may not be what we agree with, and that's fine. What young people tell us is that, you know, we are sexually active, and we need to have the right for information. Now, whether that is through formal education or other ways of information, and whether that is one method of preventing a pregnancy over the other, that is up to everyone to decide. And I think that's the real spirit of a society that is free and open to debate.
Right.
And I think that's really what the message we are getting from young people.
Right. Reverend Bate, we've heard Mr. Mulindwa's submission, and the church pretty much seems like it's the only body that is not totally comfortable, especially with the implementation of this particular program. Just let us in on the specifics that the church feels it's not comfortable with, so to speak.
I think one of the things is we look at the policy, why the policy came up and what it is addressing. And some of the fears that we have, you know, when you say sexuality education, it's not something small. It has a lot of things involved in, and it's a process. And so for the church, it looks at it as something that needs to be handled carefully. First of all, the name, sex education. To someone may think it is an act of really practical, or some of the things that are embedded in there. For instance, if you said sexual awareness, issues affecting young people, if we can borrow that our many years the ancestrals, how they used to do, they would send the children to their singers and aunties and all that. Only that today parents have neglected their role. They're so busy working and all that. So can we see avenues that would be appropriate in addressing this? The name, the way it sounds, it can be a shock to many.
So number one, what you have an issue with is the name. Okay.
And then the other thing is the details embedded in this policy. Some of the topics that we handle in this policy, we prepare people for marriage, and some of these topics seem to be are shared with the young people, and you kill the innocence of a child if they get to know that. There's a need of discovering if you know everything and you get to marriage and you know everything, then you haven't discovered.
So they're killing the discovery bit.
The innocence, the innocence of a child. And so we are very, very, very concerned about that. But also the role of the clergy, the religious leaders, and all that. It needs to be clear. Where do we fit in? What is our role in this policy? Because it's concerning the nation and all the people that come to the church. It has a religious issue with it. And sexuality is not just sexuality. We base it on the Bible, where man is created in the image of God. And it's something that is not, for us, it's like an act of worship. It's part of worship to God.
All right.
So it needs to be handled carefully. And the way it's brought in, we understand, if we come on board and we understand this, everyone knows that there is a problem in the country.
All right.
So if we come together and we sort these issues, like he said, they're just a few things, and then it will come to play.
You mentioned innocence, and I'd like us to take a look at what the young people had to say with regards to this conversation. And let's gauge how innocent they are. Let's take a look.
Reality on the ground. We are in Chiwatule today. Reality on the ground. We are in Chiwatule today at Chiwatule Recreational Center, and of course powered by Barclays. Thanks to Barclays, we're out here in Chiwatule, and we're going to be talking to our young friends here on a very interesting topic that I think many of you should be interested in as parents and as children and the youth as well. As our topic today, we are looking at sexuality in the youths. Why are they more scared of getting pregnant than getting STIs, sexually transmitted diseases? Why are they more scared of pregnancies? And how much information do they have when it comes to contraceptives like condoms and all that? That's the discussion we're having today. Reality on the ground. The hashtag is Morning at NTV. In case there is anything that you want to share with us, you can go ahead and use that hashtag. Let me start with a very young man here. He's going to give me his details. How are you? He has a very beautiful smile. How are you, young man?
I'm fine.
What's your name?
My name is George William.
George William.
Yeah.
George William. That's a good name, you know. That's a great name. Eh?
Yeah, it has to be a good name.
It has to be a good name.
Yeah.
How old are you, George William?
13 years.
13.
Yeah.
George William, how much knowledge do you know or do you have about, you know, contraceptives and the sex life in general? How much knowledge do you have?
The knowledge about contraceptive is that condoms, yeah.
Yes.
What I can tell you that why these young people don't want, like they fear pregnancy more than STIs.
Yes.
The reason is here. You find that some children don't have any information about using condoms. Now, coming in here towns, for us we are very blessed. Now, like our organization, Nagu Teenage Information Health Center, for us they give us every information about how to use condom, what can we gain in using condoms, even the teachers, everything. But when you go in villages, even something like 10% of the children are getting pregnant, teenage pregnancy, by the way.
Okay.
And for them, because they don't have that information about the condoms and the STIs, some of them, they only know about only the diseases, only Candida.
Don't you think this is too much information for you? You're such a little boy. Don't you think this is too much information?
That's why I told you that we have our organization, Nagu Teenage. It teaches us that. That's why we give it to other people. Those who are seeing me right now, and even other people. We have to give it to other people to help them, because others don't know. And the reason is this. Now here, like in Chiwatule, people who are seeing me are very far right now. So I have to pass on this information to them to also understand.
Okay.
Yeah, I have also to know that, because that's one, like it's it's part of the rights of children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because in the Ugandan setting, you have there is a standard that you have to live up to. Your family wants you to read, grow up, be successful, then you think about kids and other things. So for in a guy's mind, when he thinks about pregnancy, they're going to chase him away from the house, they chase him away from the family, they neglect him. Actually, most parents they tell their children, for me, if you bring for me a kid, I will let you go and raise your own family on your own. So guys, they really fear that. They do not want.
Is it because people don't have enough knowledge about sexually transmitted diseases and infections?
Yes, that's true, because they don't know the adverse effects that come from when you contact these sexually transmitted diseases and infections. They don't know what dangers it can cause to your sexual life, and these dangers, if not handled, they can go for a long period of time. They can even be, they just keep increasing. It just becomes more contagious and more contagious.
The argument is always, at what age do you feel, now you're a big boy, but at what age do you feel you should have started learning or taking those the sexuality classes?
I personally, I feel like I should have started taking these classes in my A-level, senior 1.
Okay.
Yeah, because at that point, senior 1 A-level, you're going to get exposed to very many things. You're going to get into situations whereby most times when you don't have your parents there to tell you that this is this and this is that, most times it's the peer influence. So
they're learning a lot from each other, Reverend, and they're saying that they don't get this information. And so young people talk. We were having the conversation on Friday, and they say that we talk. And at 16, we're already engaging in this sex. And the unfortunate thing is that we fear pregnancy more than STIs. And so once we have an STI, we really don't care. We really are not so worried, because you can easily access ARVs as well. So they seem not to be getting this information. So as the church, don't you think we really need this, so to speak?
Well, I work in the university. I work with the St. James Chapel, Makerere University Business School. And one of the things I've been interacting with young people, the issue with information, they do have information.
Yes.
When a young person comes, the fact that pregnancy can be seen physically, that is not a problem to them, because they say, okay, we fear to get pregnant, because physically they will see them. With an STI, physically may not be seen. So they say, we rather have an STI because no one will judge me. So it's not an issue of not having information. I think the information they have is too much at their age. Social media, look at the TVs, what they are pushing out to the children. And all this, the best teacher to the students, to the children, is TV. So whatever TV brings in, or social media, they will take it in. So if sex has been brought up as anything that you can have at any time at leisure, like most movies show, then they will take that. So the aspect of this policy needs to look into even the other areas that are causing this nation to have this kind of a problem. It's not only that they don't have information, but the information they have, how are they using it? Is it the right information? That is a question that we should have.
Because rightfully, they don't have the right information. On Friday, we were having a conversation, and they were telling us most of us prefer having it raw, for a lack of a better word, without using condoms. So ideally, they're having sex. That's a 13-year-old who you expect to be totally innocent. You mentioned about innocence. And so the question has been, can't we sanctify this space now that they have all this information, thanks to the television sets, thanks to their peers, thanks to social media platforms, and just bring it to schools now that they don't have it so much with their parents or with the churches as well, Mr. Ismail?
Thank you, Mara. And I want to agree with my reverend here. It's good realizing we have quite a number of challenges facing these young people. But I want to say this statement here, that we shouldn't bury our heads into the sand. The statistics can tell it all. Uganda has got the highest pregnancy rate in the region here. 25%. You can't imagine it. And we have HIV. We have early marriages. We have sexual violence and harassment and what. These are issues we need to face head on, all right? But to go back to our issue about the information, the Reverend has already said it. These people are getting a lot of information unfiltered. And what this framework is coming to do is exactly to address that issue, to filter the kind of message, the kind of information that goes to our young ones. That's why one of the key principles here is age appropriateness. The information we give must be age appropriate. And that's why we get even another issue, which the Reverend hasn't mentioned, the 3 to 5. People are really politicizing the 3 to 5, saying, no, you are teaching our young ones, our innocent ones, sex education. But we are saying, look at, by the way, when our young people go into sex debut, you can be surprised, Reverend. As young as 6 as 7, already these kids are involved in what? In sex. And we cannot keep aloof and say, no, let's leave it. Because the church has tried and is still trying. It goes to Sunday every day, it's preaching and preaching about these things. Should we just put our hands and say, we have failed? So what we are doing here is to provide information that befits the age category. Whether 3 to 5, the 3 to 5, by the way, let me give you an example. The 3 to 5 need to know which touch is bad, is good. Someone is going to come and touch the breast of this innocent girl. You need to teach, because these are things which were taught by the family. And by the way, one of another principle here, the centrality of the family. Again, this framework emphasizes it. The family should be key in this. But our kids, the families are disintegrated. Reverend, you know. And these people are not getting appropriate information. During my time, I want to give an example, a living example. We used to, when the visitors used to visit our homes, we would go, greet them, and go back into the backyard. But now you have kids coming and they are already here, uncle. Right. In fact, even the word uncle should be well defined. And the kids should be helped to know. Right. And the uncle comes with a sweet. This innocent one will follow this uncle. And you have seen just recently, even it is not even a month, we had a 3-year kid being defiled and killed. And why? Because of this uncle here. Some of them are defiled by their parents. So but if this kid knew that somebody should not touch me here, if he allows me the sweet, I should say no. I should not even follow. This is basic information. So but related to sexuality, education.
So what I'm getting from you is age-appropriate information. And I think that's what maybe the church had an issue with regards to also the implementation, how this is going to be, deciphered to the young people. Yes.
People have not read this framework. If you read this framework, you will not ask any question.
Mr. Sibanala, yes. I need your take on this one. Age-appropriate information. I'm sure the first world has gone ahead of us, and that's where we are worried about, and people say that what is happening in the first world should not happen here, because how it's happening there is another conversation altogether. Africans, quote-unquote, are not comfortable with it. Then from where you stand and you engaging with the young people on a day-to-day basis, how best will this be rolled out? How best can it be rolled out?
Through continuous dialogue. I think the fundamental issue here is the principles that guide this framework, right? And I agree very much with what the Reverend says, but I also agree very much what the acting director here says. The first principle is God-fearing. The second one is the centrality of parents. The third one is the importance of family. And then comes age appropriateness. So I think these are principles that everyone agrees on. And I would say, I'm not comfortable comparing, what the first world does. I think Uganda does a tremendously good job in this. And I would argue, with the Reverend by saying that, yes, because our youth has so much access to information, left, right, center, isn't it important then to have, quote unquote, the sanctity of the family, the sanctity of the school? And we must recognize the excellent job religious institutions are doing in providing education and health services. Isn't it good then that within that framework of the school and of education, there is some guiding principles? Now, how it is delivered is then still up, I think, to everyone else to do, right? So, and I think that's my take on this, and I believe that, as I very much agree with you, once you read this, you know, I do believe that this is, from that external perspective, as good as it can get.
Right, right. Reverend, as we bring this to a close, do you have a change of mind somewhat based on the conversation that we've had today, and if not, what ideally would you want addressed as soon as yesterday?
I think our concern as a church, the Archbishop has been so open-minded on this, and he has come out and spoken about the fears, some of the fears that the church has. And I think if these things are settled, like the acting director said that they're working on them, if they are settled, then the church can see how to go about it. I'll give an example. My daughter, she's now 8, but when she started school, they started telling her that if a man does this to you, that is not appropriate. When they ask you to, they give you money, that is not appropriate. Even in schools before, we had patrons, we had matrons that would be talking to these groups. Ladies would be taken away and they are talked to. The challenge today is that the institutions need to be empowered in the area of the information young people are getting. As long as information that is not right and appropriate to the young people is coming in, that will not solve the issue. This policy will not be a very big issue here, because already information is coming, other information will come. So we need to work on the policy of information that is coming in. But also in the schools, there are Christian education. There is Christian education. Why don't we improve this? Give it importance in the school. Teach people the values of being a human being and why they are created. I think there are many issues in the schools that we are facing. There are many things. But this is part of an issue. But there are many that we need to build on as we implement this. The process of implementing it, but also the issues that are affecting these young people. I tell you, in the universities, like you said, the students want to have it raw. I know, but why? Why are they having it raw? Yet they know there's HIV. Right. Yet they know there are these diseases.
The wrong information they're getting.
It's the wrong information they are getting. So this alone may not solve the issue.
Okay. How possible is it to tame the information they're getting?
I want to differ from my reverend a bit and say we may not block the information in this global world now. The only thing we should do is to see how we manage this information coming to our young people. To say that we should get away of, we may not be able really to block. Like, for example, some of the things we talk about are not supposed to be talked about in families, in schools, in where, but these children are far ahead of us. You'll be surprised even with your young daughter. The kind of information he has is quite a lot. But the point I wanted to say here, people are looking at this framework as maybe a textbook. This is simply a framework. It doesn't have messages here. Now, when we come to deliver the messages that are here, by the way, this one is meant for either teachers and other stakeholders, not for children. No, this is a guiding kind of framework. We shall sit, and we made this commitment, sit with all the stakeholders, including the churches, including the mosques, and around the table, and having the kind of packages that should go to the different age categories. Right. That one we made a commitment, and we are going to do it. Finally, Mara, I think we are about to be there. And why do I say this? When these sentiments came up, we said, no, let's re-engage because these are key stakeholders, by the way.
Right.
There's no way you can have this framework when you don't have the religious leaders on board. We recognize this. And we went for another round. And as I talk, we have met Church of Uganda. And the Archbishop has even responded and given us officially some two people to sit on our joint committee so that we can now look at the implementation plan, look at the kind of messages, and go forward. In fact, as I talk now, we are left with just one interreligious council, and we have made an effort. We are trying to reach the Archbishop. The chair now is Dr. Ruanga, and we hope very soon we shall be able again to see it. When that one is done, we hope we shall not have this pull and pull.
Yes.
No, we shall not have it. We have met Church of Uganda. We have re-engaged the Adventists. We have re-engaged the Orthodox. We have re-engaged the Uganda Supreme Council, and we have picked their concerns.
So pretty much every stakeholder is on board.
Yeah, is on board.
Okay. He mentioned something to do with the change of name from sexuality education to something totally different. Is it something that you're going to think about and maybe
there's nothing in this world that is cast in what? Cast in stone. Right. I mean, because even this document, after some time, some of the information will be irrelevant that you need to update it or review.
Okay.
So at one point in time, if we go into the review and our people are saying it should be, the name should be changed, why not? As long as the content really
is helpful.
Is helpful.
Okay. All right. So 2019, before we come to a close, we're going to see something take shape.
Well, that's what I hope.
Reverend? Something will take shape?
For me, just to point out one thing.
Right.
Because the implementers of this policy are some of the teachers that do abuse the children.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
So
right.
Also that is a key thing. Because if they are going to teach and they're the ones who are abusing, then but I'm sure when all these are settled, implementation process and some of the things, like the Archbishop has mentioned about the Archbishop's input, I think the policy then can become.
All right. So for you, is every single detail has to be streamlined?
It has to be, because it's going to be implemented.
All right. Mr. Sibenala, your last remarks on this.
I just want to say that when I was in primary school, I didn't have sexuality education in Luxembourg. This was in the early 70s. I had to wait until I was 12 or 13 years old. The only time when we were told and taught about the difference between men and women was in the Catholic catechism classes, right? So as a young child, and I think Uganda should be very happy and proud to have a guiding framework, right, which takes into account all these different different opinions, I think, on the matter.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in studio. Mr. Ismail Mulindwa, the Acting Director, Basic and Secondary Education. We also had Mr. Alain Sibenala. He is the Country Director, UNFPA, and also Reverend Bade Aaron, beg your pardon. He is from the Church of Uganda. Thank you so much for coming in studios. Quite a helpful conversation right there. At least we have that particular pledge that by the end of 2019, something will take shape and that our young people will actually get this information in the right way. And not just information, but the right information with regards to their sexuality. That has been it for Kickstarter Morning Attentive. It still continues. Up next is Reality on the Ground with David Rukasi. Don't go too far.
Coming soon on NTV.
Coke Studio Africa is back. Buy a